What's up, everybody? This is Michael on the graveyard shift, in the dead of night, in the wee hours. Your daily trivia question. Once again, I had a couple days off. Did a lot of homework. Got a lot of homework done. Recharged my batteries. Back to the grind, as I like to say. Hope everybody's week is going well. Happy Tuesday. It's only Tuesday, but it's still good. It's all good. Thanksgiving coming up pretty soon. Anywho, let's get right to it. The answer to the previous trivia question was none other than Mr. Buzz Aldrin, a fascinating astronaut to research, as is all of these pioneers of the country's early space exploration program through Mercury, Gemini, Apollo. This trivia question here dealt with Buzz Aldrin in the Gemini project, right? So on November 12th of 1966, Buzz Aldrin was on the Gemini 12 mission, which was the focus of the trivia question. This was before the more famous Apollo missions, of course. This is kind of like right in between Mercury, Apollo. And during the course of completing what NASA called extravehicular activity, EVA as it was known at the time, he perched a camera that he had on board the craft on the edge of a hatch, lifted his helmet's sun visor, pressed the button, and captured the first ever selfie in space, with the Earth sitting right behind him. It's just amazing, iconic picture. There's a picture of it right there included in the little pictorial aspect, and I also had it in the trivia question itself. The camera that he utilized would be considered ancient, of course, by our standards. This was 1966, so it was big, it was huge, it was bulky, and they couldn't take shots through the window of the capsule. It just didn't have the capability of doing that. It wasn't very compatible in that regard. It had to be firmly mounted on the spacecraft so it wouldn't shake, and Aldrin had to open the pilot's hatch in order to capture images. So that's kind of what he's working with, right? His fellow astronaut would point the spacecraft in the right direction and then would shut off the thrusters to the spacecraft so they wouldn't flash during the time of exposure when the pictures were being taken. So there was it was kind of carefully planned to an extent overall. Aldrin's selfie was totally random. He simply repositioned himself and reached up and pressed the button on the camera. And the rest, of course, is selfie history, as we like to say. And from space, from outer space for that matter. It's just amazing, amazing. The famous 1966 self-portrait by Aldrin during the Gemini 12 mission has been deemed by NASA scientists and other astronauts familiar with space as particularly impressive given the circumstances under which it was captured. This was in the near vacuum of space, of course. They were in clumsy, awkward astronaut outfits, which they can be described at best back in 1966. And it was just not an easy accomplishment overall, and especially since Aldrin's experience on the Gemini 12 mission was his first space flight. Another cool geek factoid. Lo and behold, he gets the credit for taking the first space selfie during his first space flight in 2005. Check this out. A vintage print of the selfie sold for around $9,200 at an auction in London. I'm really surprised when I found that in my research that it didn't yield more than that. And I believe he has autographed a few copies of it. Man, I'd like to have something like that. Think about that, why don't you? In a Twitter exchange, here's a couple of cool geek factoids about this famous mission. And there are many. I can only narrow it down to just a paragraph full. In a Twitter exchange, many years later, I believe it was not too far in the past, Aldrin referred to taking the picture as one expensive selfie stick, which I thought was kind of funny, of course, because the spacecraft in and of itself in its entirety was serving as the selfie stick. So I thought that was kind of funny. Space selfies, I have learned in my research, have a category all unto themselves in the crazy world of social media and selfies in general. I did not know that. Space selfies can include selfies taken by astronauts like the one Aldrin famously did in 1966. They can include pictures taken by machines, robots, rovers, and by other indirect methods, quote unquote. That's officially in the books, folks, for qualifying and being eligible for a space selfie. Now, Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, the two that were together during that famous Gemini 12 mission, became the first two people to walk on the moon 3 years later. So they made a good team, to say the very least, in the early days of America's space exploration. In 2015, well, I already mentioned that it sold for $9,200 at auction in London. It just baffles me why that didn't yield more, like I was saying. And Buzz Aldrin, the one and only, is still very much alive today. At 92 years young, he has won multiple awards for his service as an astronaut. I believe early on, he won the Medal of Freedom, was awarded the Medal of Freedom for his pioneering the early days of the space exploration program. Check it out. Set the standards for selfies, if I don't say so myself. All right, folks, let's get this terrific Tuesday started with a terrific group of people. And, of course, that means you. For November 15th, halfway through November already, folks. Next week is Thanksgiving. Check this out. On this day, in 1864, in what began as a warfare expedition of sorts through Atlanta by torching the industrial section and supply lines, General Sherman leads this campaign for the next 6 weeks, which would come to an end when the Union Army captured the seaport of Savannah. Good luck, folks. Have a great day. Peace out.